we've been talking about these guys forever. Dalton Kincaid, Luke Musgrave, Darnell Washington, and Michael Mayer. You know, your top four, these are the guys. Any of these four could be drafted in the first round. All four of them can end up being drafted in the first round. One of these guys could get drafted earlier than we think. Mm-hmm. It could be Dalton Kincaid. It could be Darnell Washington. It could be any of these guys. So I actually think that might happen. I just get a feeling that one of these guys is going to get drafted earlier than because it's happened in the drafts before where guys get drafted in the top 10 even. Wow, that tight end got drafted that high. They really, not to say like a Kyle Pitts doesn't deserve it, but sometimes right team, right spot. They love the guy. Think it could be a real big difference maker for their team. I'm getting him. So I think that's what we're going to see. And, it's really going to depend on really what you like and what you need with those first four guys.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. All right. In the first round, what position gets drafted more, tight end or receiver?
Oh, I would have thought receiver.
It's a good question, right? But it could be tight end. Like we just riled off four guys.
Yeah.
That have credible first round grades or possibilities. At the wide receiver group, I think you can make a case that there's only going to be three. Yeah. And you can make a case there might only be two.
You're right.
I have not been able to. I haven't had the time, but I don't think that's been done in a long time. Like
this could happen.
Decades. So I'm going to look. Maybe that should be our trivia question for the mock draft. When's the last time more tight ends were drafted than receivers in round one?
Yeah, because keep that in mind. We're going to have our live mock draft on the 21st, and we're giving away PDF draft guides. So. And these are going to be some of the questions. So sure. I mean, if you get the opportunity to answer that question, the first one that answers the question correctly, and all you got to do is obviously put it in the comment section, we'll work out a PDF draft guide for you. Okay. So once we get through those first four, all very good players, and we'll dissect them. And look, if you've been watching our videos, we got tons of stuff on these guys.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about them. We'll get in depth once they're drafted even more. But outside the guys we haven't really talked about, which guy is the biggest upside out of the top four?
Biggest upside might actually be the kid from South Dakota State, Tucker Kraft. And I say that because a lot of people don't know about him. Right, he didn't play this. I think he either missed all the season or most of this past season with an injury. But coming from South Dakota State, how many games have you watched them play? So that's part of the reason why I think he's going to kind of come out of nowhere if he gets into the right system. But if he hits his true upside physically, I think he's got the goods. He's an inline tight end, 6'5", 254. Ran a 4.6 at his pro day. At that size, that's very impressive. Watch him play football. He can go up and get it. I think he's that outside of the top four. I think he's the best one at getting the ball away from his body. And, why are tight ends becoming a bigger thing? I think it's a trend that we're going to continue to see in the NFL over the next few years. Everyone's looking for that Travis Kelce mismatched slot tight end that you just don't know what to do with defensively. And I think, not comparing Kraft to that player, but he brings that kind of body and that kind of movement ability to the table. He's just a little bit of an unknown. He's going to make a huge jump in competition. So you got to be a little careful with what you're doing with him early on. But these other guys that I have above him, Sam Laporta, Davis Allen, even Josh Whyle, that's right below Kraft on my stack. They lean in a certain direction, right? Laporta is your F tight end, motion, move him around pre-snap, get in and out of breaks, make things happen after the catch. Davis Allen is probably the best blocking tight end outside of Darnell Washington. And Josh Whyle is another F tight end. Tucker Kraft is kind of like the one in this second tier that can do it all.
Well, and then one guy I want to talk about before we move on is Schoonmaker, because we have had some response from our viewers on Schoonmaker. What's his ceiling?
Feeling a starting tight end. I have 11 guys in this group, which is just, I can't even believe I'm saying that. 11 guys that I think could be starting tight ends at the next level, and he was one of them. I'm 6'5", 250, so he's got that wide tight end body. Worked out a little bit better than I thought. Every time I wrote notes on him during the year, it was, hey, he's a pro. He's a pro. He's a starter, right? The movement traits with him as a route runner and after the catch, they're a little bit more lethargic than some of these other guys. He's just not as sudden, little high. That happens with his, he's got a high hip frame, just long limbs. And it's not a bad thing in some cases. But with a tight end that you're going to really, in this class especially, right? I mean, I have him as my number 10 guy. Normally, you say a number 10 guy is probably a 6th or 7th round pick.
Yeah, normal drafts, yes.
This kid is day 2, early day 3. And look what the Giants did with Daniel Bellinger last year. 4th round tight end, and the guy started every game that he was healthy for. Schoonmaker could be that guy. I just don't see the ceiling with some of these other guys that are in front of him.
Yep.
And I'm not coming down on him at all. I think he's going to be a pro tight end, a starter at some point. But he's going to be, one of those guys that at some point you're saying, okay, he's replaceable. But he's going to be in the league a long time.
He'll be valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the type of guy you want on your team in your tight end room. Yep.